Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we're going to discuss the 2005 sequel book, Son of a Witch, by Gregory Maguire, author of Wicked. This is book 2 in the Wicked years. This is 10 years after the first book came out. 1995 was Wicked, Life and Times of the Wicked to the West. This is the sequel, 329 pages long. This is interesting because Lear is a character he's a secondary character in the book of Wicked who's not in the show at all. So it's very interesting reading this book because you need to have an understanding of the Land of Oz, and I've read all 14 of Alfred Pound's books 3 times, and so I have a better understanding than most people reading this. Most people reading this have an understanding of Wicked, and then the Broadway show Wicked, book Wicked, and then the Broadway show Wicked. Wicked, the show, is incredible. I really like the changes that they did with the show. The Elphaba and Glinda friendship is much more deeper than the book is. Things, right? Certain things I didn't like that they changed. Certain things I like that they changed. Things. So when 2005 came about, 2 years after the Broadway show premiered in 2003, my family had seen the original cast when it was out in 2003. So it's, I don't want to say concerning or confusing. It was interesting to have then an announcement that a sequel to Wicked would be coming out. And then at that point in 2005, my memory of Wicked was changed a bit because of the constant listening to the soundtrack over and over and over again, the constant reading of the playbill and the behind the scenes and all that stuff of the show, which is different than the book. So I had to get back into a mindset, and at one point I was like, you know what, I'll just read it eventually. And here we are eventually, almost 20 years after this book came out, 19 years later. 2005 to 2024 is 19 years. It's a wild concept of time, mind you. And I wanted to catch myself up on the Gregory Maguire Wicked books, which is 4 books in the Wicked years, and then there's 3 books in the, which is a Macador books or something like that, which is about Elphaba's granddaughter Rosie, something like that, who is Lear's daughter. Now, the thing with Lear, being the main character of this book, Son of a Witch, is that it's always been stated, well, he doesn't know if he's actually Elphaba's son. He doesn't actually know if he's Fiero's son. He has no idea. But people just assume he is because he was with her for so long, leaving the Monterey to go to the castle in Kelly. I can't remember words today. Words are just not. Thankfully, there's a book with a map. Where am I? Kiamoko. There we go. That was a cuss sound. So through this, we have Chistry the Snow Monkey. He's back. We have Nanny. She's back. She's in her 90s. She's senile, but she's back. Glinda the Good is, did her goodness duties, and Lord Chuffrey has now passed away, so she's now a widow. And what happens? Scarecrow, we know from reading the Marvelous Land of Oz, which is the second book, after the events of Dorothy coming into Oz and leaving Oz, and the Wicked Witch of the West being killed. We know that the Emperor of Oz is the Scarecrow before Ozma, Titarius or something like that, before Ozma takes the throne again. So the question then was, did Scarecrow take the throne right after the Emperor left? Well, he didn't, because Shell, Nessarosa and Elphaba's brother, took the throne, claimed himself emperor, and then stuff happens, right? So Lear is in a coma for half the book in the first half, which is interesting because we go from first half coma to then his memory to first half coma to memory and stuff like that. He actually was with Dorothy, Tin Woodsman, Lion and Scarecrow, as they went back from the witch's castle to the Emerald City. In the book, in the film, in the shows, it's always just a quick blip and they're back. But what happened in between? Well, Lear was with them the entire time. He wants to know what happened to Noor, the girl he grew up with, his half-sister, technically, if she's Fiero's daughter. What happened to her? So we get that behind-the-scenes blip, and it's an alternate blip, and I like it. It was different. It was neat. But then stuff. So then Shell being the emperor before the Scarecrow. I liked it. But then Scarecrow takes himself off the throne because he goes on an adventure with Tim Woodman, and then Tip and Jack Pumpkinhead and Salthorse in the second book, Marvelous Land of Oz, which is one of the best as far as I'm concerned. And I freaked the freak out when Lear is going off gallivanting. He comes back to life after being semi-assaulted for warmth by Kendall, his nurse, leading to her being pregnant, which is how Rose, the granddaughter of Elphaba, his daughter, is conceived and born. Sketchy as all hell, which he mentions. Him then falling in love with one of his army mates, Trism, because then he joins the army to then see Oz to like try to find Nor, kind of a thing, like working as a double agent, other things working as double agents. But as the story progresses, it's a matter of him getting older, which is much like the first book, Wicked, is 38 years of the life and times of Wicked, which is less. This isn't 38 years worth of Lear's life. We get his beginning of life up to age 15 in the first book, and now we get him up to like 28, 29, give or take. So he's like 13 years worth of book in this 239 pages. But my point is that Lear is off doing something at one point, and he stumbles across Tip, Old Mombi, and a cow as they're going to market, and he only knows Tip's name because the woman literally says, "Tip, don't do this," or "Tip, don't do that," and she says to Lear, "I'll sell you this boy, for whatever, he's good at this or whatever," because she just can't stand him. Tip is the witched, magic, transformed boy of Ozma, who's been hidden away this entire time because of the Wicked, because of the witch, because of the wizard. I can't get the W's. Wicked, wizard, witch. It's all W's for the Land of Oz. When I came about this part, I audioed this as I read it, mixing of things, right? Audio booking is just so much more convenient for me now. I freaked the freak out. And I freaked the freak out because I love that book. That is an incredible book. It's still a mind-bending twist that I never expected when the first time I read it years ago. And the fact that Lear crosses paths with Tip, Mombi, and the cow, I freaked out. And then that is where then the Scarecrow coming off the throne kind of a thing, and then Shell coming up after. That was it. Oz leaves, Scarecrow takes the throne, Scarecrow leaves the throne, and Shell takes the place for the time being before Ozma comes about. Or is it vice versa again? I don't remember, because I know Glinda takes it at one point too. Semantics. You have to have an understanding of the Oz books to understand why that moment of Tip crossing paths with Lear is just so iconic. So I'm very curious now in regards to the third book, Mind Amongst Men, and the fourth book, Out of Oz, if Ozma is going to have a main point of this. If we're going to get Jack Pumpkinhead, I said Jack Skellington because technically that is the inspiration of Jack Skellington from Tim Burton, as well as the Patchwork Girl of Oz was the inspiration of Sally from Tim Burton. Not many people know that. So I'm going to freak out. If we get Ozma, if we get Jack on the screen, woo! And by screen, I mean the screen in my head as I'm listening and reading, the book to see what's going on. Love it. Absolutely loved it. It was very well done. I liked the questioning that Lear had. Should he stay with Candle because they now have a kid? Should he be with Trism because he actually is starting to fall for Trism? Like, how does this work? Didn't even matter, gender aside. Doesn't matter. He was following his heart. But then another aspect of how does he do good for those around him? Well, he has the witch's broom. He has the witch's cape. He can fly, so he must be the witch's son, but he can't prove it. So it's really a matter of he said, she said, or something to that extent. But then once his daughter is finally breathing, she is a shade of green. So there's no doubt about it. He is obviously Elphaba's son because the genetic passed down now to his daughter. And then what happens with his daughter moving forward. So it's very interesting. I'm very interested to see what happens next. My only concern with what happens next is in the next series, which is a Marador or whatever it's called, there's a map in the beginning of the third book, I believe. And the map is wrong because in the Land of Oz, you have Winky in the west, you have Munchkin in the east, you have Gillikin in the north, you have Quadling in the south, you have Emerald City in the middle. So Winky to the west then has, Oz is then surrounded by desert, Deadly Desert, something like that. And then to the west of the desert, So the Winky Country to the west of that is the desert, to the west of that is the Gnome Kingdom. And then after that is the sea of something, Mordor Sea or whatever. And so in the map, in the next series of Gregory Maguire's, they don't have the land mass nor the desert. It just goes Winky, sea, and then the next islands or whatever, where then that stuff is starting to take place. I'm like, that's not correct. So I'm very curious. I'm nervous, but I'm curious how this works moving forward, because the Gnome King is a good villain. He's a great villain. He was in a bunch of different Oz books. He even loses memory at one point, like he gets drowned in that fountain. It's just to lose his memory, and then he's fine for a bit, but then he gets his memory back or something to that extent. He's a very good villain. And if Gregory is erasing the Gnome Kingdom off a map, I don't know why. So I'm concerned moving forward if he's using elements of Oz, of L. Frank Baum's Oz, and therefore the surrounding areas, why he got rid of the Deadly Desert, why he got rid of the Gnome Kingdom, and the surrounding countries as well, which are big focal points in the 14 books of the Land of Oz. So that is my only concern. Why the hell the map is different? Why there's land masses missing on this map? 5, 6, 7 books from now. There are 7 books in total: 4 in the Wicked Years, 3 in the Land of Morkador, whatever it's called. And then there's an Elfie book coming out in March of 25, I believe, which is her younger child years in the Munchkin Land, which I'm very curious about, because I know we're getting some Munchkin Land kid flashbacks in the film, which I cannot wait. And we got some bits and pieces here and there where Bach was actually playmates with her in Munchkin Land, but that's really it. So I'm very excited to see the kiddie version of Wicked, if you will, via book. But Son of a Witch, wonderful continuation of the story, wonderful explanation of things. Still have no idea where the hell Nora is, but that's fine. Leading into the next book, will we ever see Nora again? What happens to Nanny? What happens to Chistry? What happened to Trism? What happened to Candle? All of these what happened things. Wonderful. I'm very excited. There was dragon battles in this. That was neat. There was helping birds. That was neat. Animals versus animals. That was neat. I'm concerned for future maps. But Son of a Witch by Gregory Maguire, 2005. Wonderful sequel book. Next book is Lying Amongst Men, which is shorter than this, I believe. We'll see how fast that one goes. On to the next review. Mahalo.